The night he drove her home was supposed to be invisible, the kind of night that disappears the moment the engine cools. But if you listen closely, you can still hear it, the quiet click of a seatbelt, the pause before a truth almost spoken, the moment two lives brushed against each other and never returned to their original shape. Stay with this story, because what happened in that car didn't just change how she spoke to him, it changed who they both became. He was used to being overlooked. As a single dad, his world revolved around alarm clocks that rang too early, school lunches packed with tired hands, and a heart that learned to stay quiet because nobody had time for his exhaustion. By day, he worked as a driver for a large corporate firm, clean car, pressed uniform, polite silence. By night, he became everything to his 7-year-old daughter, Emma, who believed her father was the strongest man alive simply because he never missed bedtime stories, no matter how broken he felt. That evening, when his supervisor told him he'd be driving the CEO home, he didn't think twice. It was just another address, another ride, another reminder of the distance between people like him and people like her. She stepped into the back seat without looking at him. Clara Whitmore, sharp suit, tired eyes, phone glowing with endless notifications. The kind of woman whose decisions moved markets, whose words ended careers. He greeted her softly, and she nodded, already buried in emails. The city lights reflected off the windshield, stretching time into something fragile. Halfway through the drive, rain began to fall, heavy and relentless, forcing traffic to slow. Silence filled the car, thick but not uncomfortable. Then the call came. Emma's school number flashed on his dashboard screen. He hesitated, apologizing as he answered. A teacher's voice explained there had been an incident. Emma had waited long after pickup time, clutching her backpack, insisting her dad would come. His chest tightened. He explained, voice shaking, that he was working, that he'd be there soon. He ended the call and stared at the road, ashamed of the crack in his composure. For the first time, Clara looked up. Really looked. She asked, quietly, if his daughter was okay. He nodded, forcing calm, explaining that being late was his worst fear, not because of consequences, but because Emma trusted him more than anyone. Clara didn't respond, but something shifted. When they reached her building, she surprised him by asking him to wait. She stepped out, then turned back and said something that stunned him, "You should go get her. I'll report the delay myself." He tried to refuse. She didn't let him. That was the night he drove away with gratitude burning in his chest, unaware that for Clara, that short drive had cracked open a memory she'd buried for decades, a childhood of empty houses and parents who were always working, always promising tomorrow. From that night on, everything changed, though not in obvious ways. At work, Clara began noticing him, asking his name, remembering details, greeting him with warmth that confused him. But it wasn't kindness alone that altered her tone, it was respect. She'd seen the way his voice trembled when he spoke about his daughter, the way responsibility lived in his silence. To her, power had always meant control. Now, it began to mean sacrifice. Weeks passed. Emma fell sick, and medical bills piled up. He took extra shifts, exhaustion carving lines into his face. One evening, Clara noticed his hands shaking as he held the door open for her. She asked again, gently, and this time he couldn't hide the truth. He spoke of hospital visits, of choosing between overtime and sleep, of fearing that love alone wouldn't be enough to protect his child. That night, Clara didn't just listen, she acted. She arranged flexible hours for him, quietly increased his pay, and connected him with a healthcare program the company offered but never advertised. When he found out, he was overwhelmed, embarrassed, grateful beyond words. He tried to thank her, but she stopped him. "You didn't ask," she said. "And that's why you deserve it." As months went by, their conversations grew deeper. Not frequent, not dramatic, but meaningful. Clara began questioning her own life, the walls she'd built to survive. She started leaving the office earlier, calling her estranged sister, volunteering on weekends. The single dad she once barely noticed had become a mirror she couldn't ignore, the true test came when the board pushed back, accusing her of favoritism. They demanded she reverse her decisions. Clara stood firm, explaining that empathy was not weakness, that companies thrived when people were treated like humans. The risk was enormous. Her position hung in the balance. But she remembered the rain, the phone call, the quiet dignity of a man who loved his child more than his pride. In the end, she kept her role, but lost something else, the illusion that success was meant to be lonely. On her last ride home before taking a rare vacation, she sat in the back seat again. This time, she spoke freely. She thanked him, not for driving, but for reminding her who she used to be. He smiled, humble as always, and said he was just doing his job, but they both knew the truth. That single drive had rewritten their stories. He learned that being seen could change everything. She learned that power, when shared, multiplies. And somewhere between traffic lights and quiet conversations, two broken paths had crossed, not to save each other, but to awaken something stronger than success, humanity. If there's one thing this story leaves behind, it's this: sometimes the smallest moments carry the greatest transformations, and sometimes the people we overlook are the ones who teach us how to truly live.